Did you have a chance to look at the notes by chance?
I briefly looked at them. I looked at the diagrams. There's a lot of. I love your flowcharts. Are these all? Are these? One looks like a flowchart, and the other. Well, yeah, they're both flowcharts. Different kinds, I guess. One's more
Not
of a
really
mind map.
flowcharts.
Not flowchart. Well, so the first one looks kind of like a flowchart. It's not actually. Well, I mean, it is. It's a network flowchart. I know you just call it a network diagram, but network diagrams
I understand.
are in sense a flowchart.
Yeah, and the main reason I just would be a stickler for the semantics is that a flowchart typically involves decision making to figure out where to go from one point to the next. And these diagrams don't involve decision making. They're just showing physical connectivity.
Yes. So that's why we don't call them network flowcharts. We call them network network diagrams.
Yep.
And
the only
the
reason
second one looks more like a mind map, but I know it's not a mind map.
that's just actually how the topology is viewed through the UDM, the Unify device. Because it has the ability to show a map. I can actually toggle on and off all the clients too, so I can view which access point wirelessly they're connected to or which wires are run.
That's cool. Sorry, I was looking. I was like, is there a difference there? You've got two Wi-Fi access points in there, but one of them says LR, one of them says Pro. Are they? And they look slightly different. If I'm not mistaken,
they're technically different models.
Okay.
We can go into the details. What I was going to start with on the notes was I know we're supposed to record 2. Did you want to try to just start with the top and go through and see kind of where things fall, or do you want to jump to like the Florida topic that may or may not be long at all? Because I don't have a whole lot to say. It's just I found it interesting, but I didn't know what that might lead to in conversation, and then do just a set of micro topics to round out the second show.
I'd like to talk about the Florida stuff. This will be fun. And the micro topics for the second show. So.
I just figured that was an easy way to break it down, because the micro topics always tend to be something that can be agnostic with regard to time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Florida thing may or may not have, more information or drastically different outcomes in a week.
So I can't say that I'm surprised.
Surprised by which? The Florida topic?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for a second because I have a lead in that I kind of want to go with and see how it sounds, but I don't know if I'm going to like it. So who would imagine that we've been talking about climate change and warming and everything else, and Florida, of all places, would be in the headlines yet again for something else?
This time it's not Florida, man.
Yeah, technically, I guess you can't really blame Florida for this one, but it just, Florida can't escape the headlines. It's kind of funny. There was an article that will be linked in the show notes that just caught my attention because it's not something that I had paid a lot of attention to, but it makes a lot of sense. And the general gist of it is that the water temperatures are, and I should back up slightly. The water temperatures in the Keys, southern areas in Florida, specifically for the purpose of this article, not necessarily all waters around the coastline of Florida, but the waters in the southern areas of Florida around the Keys is where this called out, are significantly warmer than they should be. And it's causing algae to bleach. I think bleaching of the coral. Sorry, not algae. That's the expunging of algae from coral, which causes the bleaching and subsequent starvation of the coral. But the increase in the water temperatures wreaking havoc on coral in the shallower waters around the Florida Keys. And part of why this article caught my attention was because of how quickly this has occurred. It's over the past 2 weeks as we record, that there have been significant concerns about the pace at which this is happening and how quickly this could progress over the next week. and I found it interesting to kind of scan through. I've got some notes that I pulled from the article that are just kind of a high level, but I figure that introduces it well enough to have some initial thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm looking at these the water temperature there. It's like bath water. Like that that's not comfortable to be in. Especially if you're
So
coral and you live there.
yeah, I mean the peak temperature that they listed was 101.1 degrees, and that's just ridiculous for ocean water.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have ever heard of water temperatures reaching, and I'm sure they have in places at, spikes and everything else, but this is the first time I've paid attention to it or noticed it. And I remember when I was doing my dive certifications, I did some beach diving off of Pompano, which is just north of Miami, and the water temperatures there were 80 ish degrees. It was real high 70s, might have hit 80 at the time that we were doing the dives. And they were uncomfortably warm if you were in a wetsuit. Like we actually started our dive, realized no, this isn't going to work because we're going to start sweating in the water. Got back up to shore, stripped off the wetsuits, and just put the rest of the gear on over top of swim trunks, and had really comfortable dives after that. But that was in 78 to 80 degree water. I can only imagine how uncomfortable 101 degree water would be.
It'd be like trying to swim in bathwaters. Like a really terrible hot tub is that cool. You'd expect I think hot tubs I want to say they max out at 115 maybe, or 115 or 120, something like that. So 100 is like it's really uncomfortable to swim in, and it's not hot enough to be a hot tub. But it sounds like trying to swim in a bathtub or trying to swim in bath water. I'm not even sure if bath water gets that hot.
I'm sure it does.
Okay.
And I only say that because I'll take us on a little quick side tangent just for reference. Over the weekend, we dealt with a hot water heater pilot light not wanting to stay lit, which ended up being gas control valve failure kind of thing. And so during the course of trying to figure out what I wanted to do as far as do I want to repair, replace, etc., opted to just replace it and go the most expedient route. And the reason I know the temperature ranges is because the lowest setting on the hot water heater was 110 degrees. It might have been 115. Where I know it caps or where it starts, if you put it on the hot setting on this particular one, it's 120 degrees. And then you can go above that, and it's a 10 degree increment above for each notch above that up to, I think 140 is the max, which is ridiculously hot for home hot water, for anybody listening. But generally speaking, you target the 120 degree-ish range or lower, depending on how susceptible you are to temperature of water for a home hot water heater. So you can imagine that if your hot water is, let's just say 120 degrees and you're filling a tub and, mixing in cold water, I would expect you're probably going to be in the 100 to 105 degree range for a warm bath. And that's basically what we're talking about here.
So I got this a little bit wrong. I did a quick search on Jacuzzi's website, the name brand hot tub. They're saying the majority of hot tub users prefer water temperatures in the range of 100 to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. 104 degrees Fahrenheit is the standard maximum temperature, which some users prefer. And children under the age of 5 should not be in hot tubs over 95 degrees and should only remain in hot tubs for 5 to 10 minutes at a time.
So I think both of us had our ranges skewed by about 10 degrees then.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, because 104 sounded right to me, but in my mind I was thinking, but maybe I meant 114. Like, I wasn't sure. So I bet on the hot water heater, it's 110 at the low setting and 120 at the high setting, and then 10 degrees above that.
And it's got, because it's got to travel through the pipes in the house, so
right.
You lose.
And it's also not expecting you to run pure hot water for pretty much anything.
Right, because it mixes it with cold water to get, you mix it with cold water to get the right temperature at the tub or the shower, or sink. I looked up what bath water is, and bath water is anywhere between 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 105 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, which is exactly the range that we're talking about. So let me add a couple of these quick bullet points on temperatures that were in the article. Yeah. So the peak temperature that was recorded was 101.1, but that's from one specific buoy at a depth of 5 feet.
That's pretty high.
It is, especially when you're talking not at surface level, but at least below surface level. But the other buoys were registered at between like 96 degrees and 100 degrees as well. So it's not that the entire range was a nice steamy 101.1. It's that was the highest measurement. The majority of them were at least below that, but not by much. But what's interesting is the normal average range, or the normal average temperature for this particular area was in the 90s, mid 80s roughly. So the water is typically in mid 80 degree temperatures in the region. So if you think from mid 80s to close to 100, if not over 100 as an average for the region, that's a huge change, especially for something like coral that's very susceptible to temperature changes.
Yeah, it's not surprising, but it'll go relatively unnoticed.
Maybe. I mean, I agree with the pessimism for a number of reasons. Like I'm not wanting to argue that. What I think it will go unnoticed by the majority of people in the country, or even the world, for sure. But I think it'll create a fairly significant ripple in at least the scientific community and cause some ongoing monitoring and attempts to understand and kind of drive efforts for what's the word that they use? It's not reintroduction. Rebuilding, maybe, of coral reefs. Is that what they determine it to be? Reconstruction. That's probably a better word. So I think it will be noticed. I just don't think it'll be something that most people in the general public pay any attention to.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think it's been noticed by the scientific community and the climatologists. I think that's the word I'm looking for quite some time. Let me back up and say it's been well known in climate science for before our lifetime. Like, it's been a thing. They've known about global warming before we were born, and they know it's going to be an ever increasing issue. And I
would also quickly interject that marine biologists really focus in on this specific issue as well. Just because it's their field of study.
Yeah. It's killing what they study.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what they're studying now, is the death of the ocean life, or shallow seas life. But it's it's been to the extent that at some point in our lives they change. The term was switched on us. It went from global warming to climate change. And climate change, it's more whole, more encompassing. But you know what? It doesn't sound nearly as dangerous as global warming, and that's exactly why they changed the terms. Is because climate change doesn't sound. Climate change sounds like it could be. Well, climate change is a natural occurrence, but it's not without disaster. I mean, you could say that like each ice age that the Earth has experienced has been a significant climate change, but how many species went extinct during the ice age? Many. And how many went extinct after the Ice Age? Many. And so it's not so much that the Earth is in trouble, but the ecosystem that we live in and rely upon, that's what's in trouble. And so it's not, Earth will be fine. Humanity and the rest of the ecosystem that we live in could be, we're already being disrupted.
So it's interesting that you go ahead and go that path, because I agree. There are some things I want to go back to in the article, but we'll come back to that in a minute, because this particular train of thought is one that I heard so succinctly summarized at one point that I will never forget the analogy. And it is that as far as nature is concerned, as far as the Earth in general is concerned, we behave the exact same way as a virus. We consume the host to the point that it has to fight back in some fashion, and at some point we'll reach a point of no return, or a breaking point, where nature will wreak havoc on our ability to survive in an effort to protect itself. And so thinking of humankind as a virus within the scope of natural environments, that was the analogy that really stuck with me. And it's so perfectly analogous to the way we approach our natural resources at this point. I mean, we're starting to at least think about ways that maybe we adjust this to be less parasitic as far as our relationship with Earth, but at the moment, we are very much a virus with regard to what nature has to do to survive.
Yeah, I don't remember who I heard talking about this, and I wish I could credit him. But he was saying, you know what? We put all this plastic into the Earth. Guess what? The Earth is going to learn how to use plastic. It's going to assimilate plastic into nature, and it's already starting to happen. There's now in the ocean bacteria that consumes plastic. Like I read that, and that blew my mind. We've had plastic in the ocean for so long that bacteria is now consuming plastic.
I'm going to have to go back and watch Jurassic Park. I think some aspects of this argument were included in the ways in which chaos theory was presented on screen. I don't remember for sure, but it seems like I remember parts of the argument stemming from that. I know it's not where I heard specifically the virus analogy as far as humanity is concerned. I don't remember exactly where I heard it, unfortunately, so I can't credit that source either. But I think something similar was conveyed in that film as well. And I remember that coinciding with when I first kind of put together that analogy.
Well, when you were discussing humanity being like a parasite or a virus, it reminded me of the scene in The Matrix with when Agent Smith is trying to break Morpheus, and he talks about humanity being a parasite, a virus that goes and consumes, and so I was wondering. I wasn't wondering if that's where you got it from, but it made me think of that scene.
And I mean, I'm old enough at this point. My idea of timelines are kind of fuzzy, so it very well could have been that something in that film also prompted the kind of the spark that I've lumped into multiple pop culture references. So entirely plausible.
So one of the things, this is a bit of a pivot here, but one of the things that I think about is part of the issue here is that, well, first of all, we don't have we always come here. It's going to come up in every single episode, but well, maybe almost every single episode. But if we had a functioning government that was not that corruption was not running, rampant, we may be having a very different discussion here. But we don't have a functioning government. We don't have officials that listen to the top minds in this field. Part of it part of it is the corruption. It has to do with there are a few people that are in charge system that we live in that are benefiting from it, and they don't care. They don't care about future generations. They don't care about the earth, and it doesn't matter what they say. Their actions indicate as such. And then I think you have most of the people in the world that are either stuck in a system that requires them to contribute to the global warming, or it's just not been made easy to not contribute to global warming. And that's where, government should be intervening. Like a healthy, properly functioning government would be putting in place policies that would prevent or would be attempting to reverse the effects of global warming, or 100 years ago, or whenever I don't know when it began, but sometime in the last 100 years, we knew that this was going to be a problem, and as soon as we knew this was going to be a problem, we should have been taking actions and creating or molding our society in a way that prevented or reduced that. I mean, there are some places that are trying now, and there are other places that don't care. I think about Wyoming, who doesn't care about the electric car, but the electric car might be a bit of a that may or may not be that may or may not be the thing that we need. I think greenhouse emissions are only 25% of greenhouse emissions come from our automobiles in the world. 50% of them come from buildings. And I remember watching a documentary talking about 4 Times Square. It's really cool because the air that comes out of that building is cleaner than the air that goes in. It actually filters the air. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's interesting. I know as you were talking, I was also reminded there was a relatively recent development with a particular paint that was being trialed on roofs. It's kind of I don't remember all the details, but basically the paint was a combination of being able to reflect more heat so that cooling systems didn't have to work as hard, and also having a benefit related to it's not insulation. It's not what I'm thinking of. So I'll have to find the article. I may or may not follow up on that. Just clarity. It was twofold. So one was within the building itself, there was a reaction to keep cooling systems from having to work as hard. But there was also a subsequent added benefit environmentally around the building that resulted in kind of a cooling effect. And I don't remember what the word for that is. That's why I was struggling to try to remember. But this is just from a particular paint on a roof. So you can only imagine, if you couple that with other initiatives, how quickly you could affect meaningful change for a region. Even if it's nothing more than just reducing temperatures to make it less deadly for inhabitants. Like, I don't know, Arizona over the past couple of weeks.
It's going to be hard to reverse this. It's going to be hard to slow this down, much less reverse it. And I was thinking about one of the problems is, like I said, most people, they want what's easy, and we're in a system that contributes to global warming, and that's what's easy. If we lived in a society that where the easy thing was not contributing to global warming, where recycling was easy, and hell, not just recycling, but like reusing and reducing, and people would be doing that. It's just that we haven't. And anything that looks crazy or weird, like the places that have grass growing on the roofs of buildings, there'd be some people like, well, I find that aesthetically unpleasing. And that's because you've been conditioned to think that. Like whenever I drive around and I see beautiful landscaping, I was like, that's beautiful, but I know that I've been conditioned to think that is beautiful. And so then there's that, and then there's a group of people that feel like we should be like pristine zookeepers, and it's like, okay, well, we can never let this indigenous species, or we can never let this species over here because it's well, yeah, there are certain things that do cause problems, but it's not really our place to keep the earth like segregated in a zoo. We do want to, there are things that are harmful, and you don't want to introduce certain species into certain areas because they'll be, they're invasive and they will, take over and destroy the ecosystem there. But I don't think it is our place to say, oh yeah, well, we should never introduce this here because it's going to be a problem. But I guess we don't always know. We can't always foresee the environmental impact of this thing or that.
I struggle a little bit because there are two key points that I both agree and disagree on. So one of them, if we kind of back up slightly, is the kind of accessible and easy answer as far as the way we approach recycling or reducing our carbon emissions, or anything that would be pro environment, I guess is a good way to think of it. Because I don't
that's the
think
buzzword we use.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just because it's not as easy. Because there are a lot of things that we could do that are really close to being just as easy. I think it's a little more nuanced in that it has to both be easier and something that I can't tweak as far as a behavior goes. So the example that I would give, like this is kind of where I was going with it. Recycling is a great thing. If you are in a region where you have the ability to put recyclables in a can and have it picked up, right? Otherwise, you would have to put recyclables into a container and transport them to some other location. And I can understand that it's easier to recycle if you have recycling pickup than if you have to travel to a location to drop stuff off. But I also know a lot of people that will recycle if they have to travel to a location, if it's a convenient location in their normal routines. For example, Target has recycling drop-off for different things that if the area you're in does not offer recycling pickup, you could transport those items to Target if you used Target as a normal shopping location, right? So for people who visit Walmart all the time and scoff at Target, that's not for you. But those are the kinds of things that it's entirely possible someone will take the extra step as long as it's available to them in their normal-ish routine, right? And it's so going back to the example of like the paint to reduce the how much work an air conditioning unit has to make for a building, or however many air conditioning units, and reducing the temperature in general. Like the only reason that wouldn't see fairly quick and widespread adoption would be if there was a cost barrier because of R&D. Similarly, like as far as the people example with recycling, the only reason they wouldn't take recycling with them on an errand that they were already making would be if it were too difficult to grab a bag of stuff and just drop it off. Like if I have to rinse it and separate it and have this stuff go here and this go here and 5, 6, 12 different things, then you introduce friction into something that could be frictionless, or at least very minimally some level of friction. And that's the line that we're not good at kind of finding. We're good at making options available, and use the collective we, obviously, on we're the United States in general is good at trying to make options available, but it is not good in execution the majority of the time. And I think that's more the problem than it is some level of effort being required. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
And so I think at the end of the day, I think plenty of people would be on board with adding an action in order to combat climate change if we just made it a little better from an execution standpoint. And the best parallel I have to like something that directly impacts me would be with the location we moved to, with the city we're in now. There is recycling pickup, and it's basically a vehicle that takes all trash, both normal and recyclables, dumps them into a bin, and supposedly goes to a sorting or processing facility that separates out what can be recycled from what can't. Now, full disclosure, I have a huge bit of doubt on whether that's actually possible and effective and doing what they say. But I choose to take it at face value because I can't disprove it yet. But that said, like, that makes a huge difference on choosing to recycle versus choosing to just toss in the trash.
Yeah, there. The thing about that is it's funny to me because it's like they can say, "Oh yes, we take it to a recycling. We take your trash and we take your recyclables and we take them to a processing plant where they get sorted and recyclables."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it all
cetera.
just ends up in the landfill, but that's a whole different.
Well, I was just going to say, it's like, so let's say you specifically go to the recycling center and you drop your recyclables off. You put your cardboard in the cardboard bin, you put your aluminum in the aluminum place, you put your glass in the glass bin. Well, and even like there's some, I know in the city of Birmingham, sometimes they wouldn't take glass because it was too expensive to recycle, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, let's say you do all the right things. How much of that actually gets recycled? Well, it's not all of it. I'm not even sure if it's half of it. So, like the city of Hoover can say, "Oh yeah, we do this," and because they meet a certain standard, this is the copy they can use, in their brochure or their website. So that being said, again, it's not like I don't think recycling is the end all be all. I think upcycling is a better way.
I would just add the caveat. I don't think recycling helps near as much as people like to believe.
It makes people feel better.
Yeah, it's better than not doing anything. I'll
That's
put it that
true.
way.
But I have seen where instead of taking trash and putting it in a landfill, I'm trying to remember where. I know it came from. I know I saw the video on the Facebook, or maybe it was Instagram, Naz Daily. Are you familiar with him?
Not off the top of my head, but I might have seen. I probably have seen content and just don't know who to attribute it to.
He's a Palestinian man. I think he's married to an Israeli woman, which I think is they're such a cute couple. And
it's a very interesting dynamic if you
right?
take into account current events.
Take the history of the nations, from their inceptions. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I can't imagine what couples counseling with them would be like. So anyway, he does daily videos, and he's just a lot he's such a I really like his videos and the sort of focus the focus of his videos is often just exposure to different cultures and societies and ideas. But there was one video he had with where I don't remember which country. For some reason in my head I'm thinking Sri Lanka, but that could be way off. I'll see if I can find the video for the notes. But they have, instead of taking their trash and just putting it in a landfill, they've used it to build tropical islands. Like they've used it to make vacation a place where you would build a vacation resort, and I think that's amazing. It's like, let's not take this trash that is going to be here for some time and just put it in a pile, much like the beginning of WALL-E. But let's actually, I'd see this as a form of upcycling. Let's take it and use it to make something better with it, better than it being, trash. I think it's amazing. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap. Paused because it's a good.
Yeah, it is.
It is, but I completely agree with the idea, because I can't tell you how many pairs of clothing I have that are just made from like shredded plastic bottles and all that have been created into some sort of fabric, and it's some of the best clothing I've got.
I got these. We call them. I got a pair for myself on a Kickstarter. The company's called Koala, but it's spelled Coala. I think. Anyway, we call them coffee pants, but it's a very comfortable pair of sweatpants that was made from plastic bottles, and there's like there's something with coffee grounds in it, and give it sort of an antimicrobial quality, not just koala. Quality is the name of the.
I had a feeling that was who it was. So,
you're familiar?
Yeah, I am. I bought a pair of workout shorts for Emily from them.
Oh, nice. So we have so I bought a pair of their Evolution joggers, and it's made from recycled coffee grounds and plastic bottles. And Becca was like, "Oh, I need a pair," and so she stole mine. Yeah, she did steal mine until I bought her own. She still steals mine from time to time. The thing is, I tell her, it's like, if you take mine and I can't wear them and I want them, then I will take yours. And you know what? Yours fit you. Mine fit me better than yours fit me. And that's how I get mine back.
Yeah. So along the same lines, like it's not quite the exact same thing, but I know both of us enjoy, good wool clothing.
Oh yeah.
I decided to explore alpaca clothing.
Yeah, you were.
I have a couple of shirts from Paca.
Oh, you're reporting. Are you reporting back now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think they're as good as the Icebreaker stuff.
Wow.
I do think Icebreaker has a leg up on fit. Like I think the Paca stuff just isn't as well established as a brand to have quite the same fit. But from a comfort perspective, I can't tell a difference.
That's interesting. So the big thing for me is, what have you gotten to a place where you can talk about durability?
I hesitate to talk about. Yeah, I hesitate to talk about durability until I've had something for 2-3 years, because there's a lot that can happen from that first year to the second year. From initial impressions, I would say it's just as durable, with the exception of cat claws.
Oh yeah.
There's a very specific story there. I had to order a replacement shirt. A replacement shirt. That should not have been that difficult to say. So the day I received the 2 shirts that I ordered, I had put one on just to kind of test and feel, and one of our cats, we had not trimmed the claws for a few days, kind of thing, or probably a couple of weeks, honestly. Let's just be true.
Yeah.
But like, she was kneading, and the claw sliced the thread without even a half a thought, and there was a hole in the shirt. Now, granted, I had Emily fix the hole, and I can still wear the shirt, no problem, but I went ahead and ordered a replacement as a result, because I wanted to have have one that had not had some sort of surgery performed to make it whole. And but even so, even with that caveat and accidentally having one go through the dryer, I would say that it's still as durable as the icebreaker stuff. Maybe not quite as robust against accidental drying, because it did shrink lengthwise more than the icebreaker stuff shrunk when I dried it. And I intentionally dried the icebreaker stuff when I lost weight because it was just too big anyway. So I was trying to see how close it would take. But I can, the alpaca stuff still fits even after accidentally drying. It's just the length of the main body of the shirt is kind of at that borderline. Yes, this is long enough. Yes, it's okay. Yes, it's comfortable, but it's maybe a tad bit shorter than I would like for it to be, as opposed to the non-dried version when it ships, which is nice and long and, comfortable.
Yeah. You don't want your belt buckle showing.
Correct.